Nada orgánica.
Hi, I'm Esther Piñuaga from Bodegas Piñuaga.
Hi, I'm Madalyn Durrant, chef at Bar Paraset.
And first thing I wanted to ask you is, where are you originally from?
I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and moved here about 3.5 years ago.
Okay. I'm from Spain. I was born in Madrid, and today I live between my winery in Toledo and Madrid.
Great. So we did a dinner last night with Esther's Wines and your food. How did it start? Tell me about your tasting, your first tasting, and how you came into the wines.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to Alex, obviously, and we like to do these little kind of smaller chef's counter dinners, and it's especially fun when we have a producer or somebody from the winery in town, because I think it feels a lot more like, frankly, it's a better sell, but it's a really nice thing for guests to have a connection with producers, because that's something that I think we kind of take for granted in the industry. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting to be able to share that with people, and it's exciting to see who comes to these events, because we get a lot of, like, we have our friends come, we have industry folks come, but like we had several people last night that had been in once, or this was their first time, or which is great. And then, you know, it's good for the team, it's good for my team to be able to have exposure to wines that are not normally on our list, because our list is all French and domestic right now, which makes sense, but it's good exposure, and the kitchen loves doing it, and being able to, you know, mm-hmm. It's also fun for me, because I get to do stuff that I couldn't normally do on the regular menu, because it doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Alex was like, "Oh, Esther's in town." And I said, "Great, sign us up."
So you have a French background in terms of food and to a degree with language, but now you're tasting Spanish wines. How do you think about, as a chef, how do you think about coming into a region that maybe you don't work with all the time, and specifically, as you're tasting through, how did you think about these wines before you had any dish ideas?
I definitely do a little bit more, or a different style of research perhaps, than when I'm tasting French wines. I think I have kind of a system down, for lack of a better term, with tasting French wines for something in this context. But with these things, I mean, a lot of it's nice to, I almost wish I could taste totally blind, but I always like tasting through an entire producer's lineup, because you get a much better sense of mm-hmm. what the wines are, and what the wines are, and what they kind of, what the menu needs to be, and kind of like the personality of the winemaker and that sort of thing.
But there's a couple of ingredients that are actually common in my region in Toledo, like the pistachios and the saffron. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Well, I'm always nervous too to cook, like, because my background's not in Spanish food, and I've been to Spain for a very short time in the past. Mm-hmm. So I always hope, and it's also like, to present these pairings to the person who made the wines, I'm like, I hope you like it.
Yeah.
But no, it was.
How did you? So you taste through to try to get an idea of what the lineup is. You did that. What was your impression of what the lineup was?
I mean, I was really excited to taste them, because there's a lot of different directions that we could have gone with these wines. Like, in a lot of ways, if you were trying to draw some sort of analogy to French wines, I think you certainly could do that, because they're very, like, precisely made, and they're clean, and they're very classic, but they're also like especially the Tinto, I think is a very playful wine. The single vineyards are mm-hmm. like very thought-provoking. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Yeah, trying to figure out, it's so interesting, and I think people will be very interested, because you came up with the whole meal from one tasting with multiple layers, and we'll talk through each course, but you came up with very layered, interesting pairings based on tasting through, and I think that's the black box for people, and I'm always curious, like, I asked the lineup question, but maybe more specifically, as you're tasting, are there things that you taste where your palate says, oh, this wants acid, this wants salt, this wants fat, this wants something else?
I mean, I was thinking about this morning, like this is kind of a good exercise in maybe having to show my work a little bit, because there's things that it's like, okay, well, this makes sense to me, or obviously this would pair with this, but you don't always, like, it's not always so easy to articulate how we got there. So like the Sauvignon Blanc, for example, I think that's a really cool wine because it strikes a good balance between a very like clean classic, and again, I'm sorry to use other analogies, but like a French Loire Sauvignon Blanc, and the kind of New Zealand style that I think we all kind of tend to eschew, because it doesn't have any of those really intense pyrazines. It's got fruit, but it's not overpowering. It's not like simplistic. So it's like, okay, well, now there's room for some pyrazines in the dish. There's room for peppers because we can kind of add those back in. But then, of course, like we used I was going to put just pistachios in the croquettes, but then it's like, oh, pistachio butter would make so much more sense because it'll soften the sharp edges of the cheese and of the peppers. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of what we talk about when we think about like pairing, but it's very different, of course, to pair a dish that already exists with a wine that's already on a list or on a menu versus being able to like create something that can exactly fit a bill.
Esther, how do you hear her description of your Sauvignon Blanc? Did she describe what you try to grow and make?
Yeah, I mean, I specifically, the idea with this wine, and I think that what we've been able to show and get feedback from customers is that it's a really, it's got a great balance between the fruit, and the fruit is more on the acid kind of fruit for me, like kind of apple and maybe some pear, not so much tropical, so I think it's fruity, but it's not overwhelmingly heavy in terms of the intense fruit, and then it's got a nice balanced acidity without not being extremely acid, like maybe other wines from maybe France, maybe. So I think I found that it's a good balance, and I think that it's a wine that it's a very versatile in terms of what you can food pair with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we were talking about with the staff when we were tasting before service, was that it has acidity on the palate, but it doesn't read as tart and lemony or like sharp at all.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Can you just introduce the dish from start to finish?
Yeah, sure. So we made a potato croquette which is of course kind of a gimme, I think. But instead of I wanted to use something that was local, partly because it's a good ethos, but also because, like, frankly, cheese is getting tough to buy with tariffs. But there's a great cheddar that's made in Iowa called Prairie Breeze that has a lot of really like nice crystals in it, but it reads very sweet and honeyed, and there's a little bit of like tang that you would get from a younger cheese. So yeah, potatoes, the Prairie Breeze, a little bit of pistachio butter in the croquette, and then breaded and fried, and then we topped it with a little bit of roasted or like a charred poblano mayo, and then a papara pepper, which is just enough of a sharp note.
I thought the piparra was interesting because it gave the.
Did it work?
Yeah, but I thought it was obviously a bit spicy, but I thought that it really made the wine very interesting. So that combination, I thought that was good.
Cool. Yeah, and then a little bit of cured pork on top. So yeah, you get those kind of good layers of like fat, sweet, acid, and then you can start all over with a new bite.
If I were at home and I had a bottle of the Piñuaga Bianco, could I make myself a cheddar grilled cheese with some pistachio and a little bit of prosciutto and get halfway there?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know why you wouldn't do that
Why not?
immediately.
Especially if you buy the natural pistachios and without being toasted or salted, and you can just toast them on a frying pan without any oil or salt or anything.
Maybe consider making your own pistachio butter.
Yeah.
How do you make pistachio butter?
Just throw it in a blender.
Did you know that Esther grows pistachios?
No.
We
should
started.
have talked about this.
I know we started some years ago. I mean, it's a tree that takes 7 years to grow and to get your first harvest.
I don't actually think I know what a pistachio like fruit looks like.
Oh, it's very interesting because I'll show you some pictures later. Because when just before harvest, they have this skin that to me it reminds me of the color of the mango.
Oh, wild.
Because they're like kind of orangey, and then as they ripen, that color starts fading away, and they become like skin colors. You have to take the skin out, and then you have the hard shell, and then the inside. But we've these first harvests, it's been most of it by hand, and we've dried them outside in the sun, and but it's really interesting to see how when you have the chance to taste a pure pistachio without the salt influence especially, and not over toasted, or it's just incredible what the flavor is like.
I would like to try some.
Yeah.